no law enforcement, whether you are ICE or local law enforcement, should have masks. And you should be unmasked as you're doing your work in order to ensure the safety of the people of this community. That's basic. That there shouldn't be no controversy there. I have been one of the few that called for Chuck Schumer to step down months ago. You can't just put all the blame on the Republicans when we as Democrats are not doing everything in our power. And we should be doing everything in our power. And my leadership should be whipping for these bills as well.
Why isn't leadership whipping for these bills? Why aren't you getting the full support of the caucus right now?
You want to see what real independent journalism funded by the people for the people looks like?
You ever heard a story like this in America?
You're looking at it.
Congratulations for always being somewhere where mainstream media is not.
Flint, Michigan.
See you in Nevada.
Thanks to people like you, we can get the truth. Corporate media, they've been lying to us for years, and you're going straight to the people.
You are the man. I'm glad you're here.
For as low as 16 cents a day, you'll keep us on the ground, covering the important stories the corporate media covers up.
We've heard just now from many of the organizers of this protest. This is one of several that is happening across the country this weekend to try and put pressure on this company. And this is about targeting the corporate power, the money power that is backing up what this administration is doing right now in office. In effect, disappearing people, separating families, separating communities, breaking them apart. All for the pain and... Yep. Congresswoman, yes. Thank you for joining us. We'll keep this brief since you are clearly so popular out here. So I wanted to just have you start by explaining the importance of putting pressure on the corporate power out here in Home Depot. Why is that need to be a target as part of the broader anti-Trump protest that we're seeing out here in Chicago right now?
I mean, when you really think about how people are feeling every single day, we feel we're under siege. And so many of our businesses have been reaching out to our office and asking, like, how do we keep our customers safe? How do we keep our staff safe? When you have corporations like Home Depot who, instead of meeting with us, asking those same questions, in some way indirectly seem to be working with them, that's extremely problematic and dangerous for all of us. You have seen Gregory Bavino inside these Home Depots with mass production in order to multiply these videos that he's using as he shows, right? He shouldn't be in there with cameras. If I can't be in there with cameras, how could he? And when I meet with them and they tell me, well, it's law enforcement. Well, first of all, it's civil ICE enforcement. That's not criminal enforcement. And just like anyone else, they should have a judicial warrant. And they have general counsel. I've met with them directly about this. They should not allow anyone in there without a judicial warrant unless they're coming to purchase, right, as their customers. And I think it's really important for people to understand. We're not just talking about the customers, which is incredibly important, or the rapid responders who are trying to provide support to people who are being disappeared, who have been harassed by their own security. We're talking about their own associates put in danger because Home Depot isn't prioritizing them. Somehow is prioritizing, well, whatever political tie maybe their CEO has. And so for me, it was important today to say to them, I've met with them. After I came and saw what I saw, I met with them, had a one-on-one. I did a follow-up with them. And one thing I said to them, you want to demonstrate that you actually stand up for this community, you stand with this community, you need to be meeting with these rapid responders and talking about what's happening on the ground and the policies you will be putting in place in order to keep people safe. And that means not letting ICE inside your store or your public lots.
What was the response that you got to that?
We are open to the possibility, and clearly they need more pressure because that meeting has not happened. And today is, I think, the next escalation of that pressure.
Do you expect the company to respond to not only this protest, but the other protests like it that are happening across the country this weekend?
I think it is a responsibility. If they are a business that actually really is centered around its customers, around its staff, around good consumer business, they should be responding. And they should be responding in such a way that it demonstrates that they're listening to everyday people, to their customers, to these communities, their elected officials, and doing everything they can to keep people safe.
I was also struck that during your speech, you were putting a lot of pressure on your fellow Democrats to support some pretty basic steps to try and protect people from ICE. Can you just walk through really quick what some of those steps are that you want Democrats to support, and why aren't you getting the full support of the caucus right now?
So there's a couple of bills that are, to me, like bottom line, most basic protections of civil rights, of due process, of constitutional rights. One of them is the No Secret Police Act bill that I'm a co-lead on. What that bill says is that no law enforcement, whether you are ICE or local law enforcement, should have masks. And you should be unmasked as you're doing your work in order to ensure the safety of the people of this community. that's basic. That there shouldn't be no controversy there. We're 215 members of Congress today. When Adelita Grijalva finally gets sworn in, and I'm sure she'll jump on the bill. And actually, in a week, we'll be 216 of us. We have less than 150 people on that bill. If I'm not mistaken, actually much less than that. Every single Democrat should be joining these bills, because you can't say that you're concerned with what is happening on the streets or create some kind of statement or go to one rally and not actually use your legislative power to put that pressure. And it's important, because if we had over 200 members of Congress on any of these bills, we can start what we call a discharge petition. And you have heard those become very popular these days about Epstein files and about Ukraine and other things. We could actually bring that into a discharge petition and then force a vote. And if you can force a vote, then we actually can see legislative action towards protecting people. But the point is, and I've said this over and over, this is a responsibility, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, and you can't just put all the blame on the Republicans when we as Democrats are not doing everything in our power. And we should be doing everything in our power, and my leadership should be whipping for these bills as well.
Why isn't leadership whipping for these bills? Why aren't you getting the full support of the caucus right now?
Look, I know that some people are worried about, am I in a frontline district? What does this mean? But if you stand for due process, constitutional rights, protections of freedom of speech, I think it doesn't matter what district you live in, you fight for it. We actually campaigned on it. It is the basics of being a Democrat. So I think people need to stop worried about how will they see this, or will someone interpret this and make it about the border. I mean, frankly, Democrats need to have a real honest conversation about how we talk about immigration. If I'm being completely honest with you, frankly, Democrats' lack of leadership on immigration also got us to this moment. So I think we have to actually step back and ask ourselves, what do we stand for, and therefore actually act? I think the other piece I've heard from some people is, well, Delia, right now we're in a government shutdown. The priority is reopening the government. Absolutely. We need to reopen the government. We need to keep people safe, and we need to protect people's freedom of speech. We can do both things at the same time.
Does the Democratic Party need a change in leadership right now?
I knew you would come back and try to ask me that question. I think that the Democratic Party needs to ask itself every single day, are our leaders stepping up in this moment in every possible way? And if they are not, what are the tension points we need to create in order for them to step up or to step back? I have been one of the few that called for Chuck Schumer to step down months ago. And while I appreciate what he is doing right now, he needs to do a lot more to ensure that people are able to get SNAP benefits, that we are able to reopen the government protecting health care, but that we're not doing it in a way that feels like it's cowardly, that we have to actually come together to push back in every possible way, because it's not just the government shutdown, it's everything that happens when we reopen the government as well.
And in the House, Hakeem Jeffries?
Look, Hakeem Jeffries has been holding the line around all of us being together on forcing a vote on expanding healthcare, forcing a vote to renew these tax credits, and I appreciate that. And I'm going to continue to ask him to do more. We all should be asking him and every single leader to do more.
Home Depot, bringing the attention back to this issue here, has done a lot of lobbying in Congress. It spends a lot on congressional races. Do you expect that that is having any impact on the support for your bills?
Money in politics has influenced at everything we care about, whether it's Medicare for all, whether it's comprehensive immigration reform, whether it's a Green New Deal, the list goes on. The idea that these corporations, that these super PACs can have so much influence over my colleagues is exactly why we're here right now. You have people in red districts and blue districts saying, we are starving, we are living paycheck by paycheck. We should be asking ourselves, what would happen if we actually had campaign finance reform where they didn't have the level of influence that they have? So absolutely, I will always go back to it. You want to know why we haven't passed critical legislation that would make people's lives better? Housing development, affordable housing so that people don't have to live in the streets. Go back to look at who are the developers, who are the lobbyists, and who are the corporations that are influencing everyday votes. We need to get big money out of politics.
I don't want to take away from the actual human impact that is happening out here. So for my last question, we're talking about the way people are being victimized here at Home Depot specifically. What are some of the stories, the anecdotes that you're hearing from constituents right now about the way ICE and these other federal agencies, Border Patrol, are terrorizing communities here in Chicago right now?
People that look like me and certainly shades darker than me are afraid of leaving their home. I have family who won't leave their home because of the fear of what will happen to them regardless of their citizenship status. I have a friend who is in town right now from Arizona, a Latina woman, a U.S. citizen, a teacher, a mother, who brought her U.S. passport out of fear of what would happen to her when she comes back to the city that raised her. This is what's happening when they see that people are being dragged, mothers out of their cars, slammed with knees on their neck while they're screaming, I am a U.S. citizen. What they ask themselves is, if they can do this to this woman, what will they do to me? If they're willing to arrest, beat, punch, and disappear everyday people that look like you, right? People who are standing and allies with us, what will they do to them? So the point is this, look, a member of Congress should not be afraid that her father doesn't pick up the phone for 40 minutes because her father could have been taken because he was racially profiled. I live with that fear every single day. None of that is normal. What ICE is doing here is terrorizing communities because it is an agency that has been designed to be a force of terror. I've called it a terrorist organization before, and I've gotten a lot of pushback. You tell me, what is the difference when the agency that is supposed to protect the homeland is the biggest threat to homeland?
I want to end just by saying, is there anything else you want to add?
No, the last thing I would say to you is that when the federal government, when our government is weaponized against its own people, it is the people that you see here that will continue to show up. Frankly, any real transformation and policy change has never come from politicians. It's come from the people. They're who give me hope. They're also who keep me energized to keep speaking truth to power, even when it's people that look like me, who are also oppressing our own people, because I've seen that over and over. People that are willing to justify this moment, and sometimes people that are in my very same party. We have to do better. We have to prove to them that we're with them.
Congresswoman, thank you very much. I appreciate it.